They're finding their way back to you. And the part you may not understand yet is this: their return may have already started before you saw any evidence of it. Maybe they have been distant. Maybe the communication became cold. Maybe they disappeared without giving you the explanation your heart needed. Maybe you tried to move forward, only to discover that something inside you still felt unfinished. And now you are wondering one question: why does it feel like they are slowly finding their way back to me? Is it just your emotions holding on to the past, or is God actually working behind the scenes to bring something back into alignment? That is the question I want you to keep in your heart throughout this message, because sometimes God does not announce what He is doing. He works quietly. He allows circumstances to change. He allows hearts to soften. He allows distance to expose what closeness once concealed. And while you may be looking at what has not happened yet, God may already be working on what must happen first. There is something very important you need to understand. A person can walk away physically while God is still working spiritually. That does not automatically mean they are your spouse. It does not mean every person from your past is coming back. And it does not mean you should chase someone who has chosen to leave. It means you should not assume that silence means God has finished the story. Sometimes the silence is part of the process. Remember what Isaiah 55 says: God's ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. You may only see the distance. God sees the entire process. You may see the unanswered message. God sees the heart behind the silence. You may see someone moving in the opposite direction. God sees what He is still teaching them. And this is where the story becomes deeper. Because if God is truly behind this, He may not be bringing them back in the way you expected. You may have imagined a sudden phone call, a long apology, a dramatic confession, a message at midnight saying they finally understand everything. But God often works differently. He may begin by changing their perspective. He may allow them to experience situations that expose what they lost. He may allow them to meet people who make them realize that what they once took for granted was actually rare. He may allow time to remove the emotional noise so they can finally hear what they could not hear before. And sometimes the first sign that someone is finding their way back is not that they contact you, it is that their heart begins to change. That is why you cannot judge the entire story by what you see today. There may be movement you cannot see. There may be conversations you know nothing about. There may be convictions forming in their heart that they have not spoken out loud. And perhaps the most difficult part is that God may be working on you at the same time, because while you are asking, Lord, are you bringing them back? God may be asking you a completely different question. Can you trust me even before I show you what I am doing? That question changes everything, because if your peace depends on whether they text you tomorrow, then your peace is still attached to a person. But when your peace comes from God, you can say, Lord, if this relationship is part of your will, you know how to restore it. And if it is not, you know how to redirect me. That is surrender. And surrender is not giving up on love. It is giving up the need to control the outcome. There is a reason Psalm 37 says to delight yourself in the Lord and commit your way to Him. Notice the order. First, your relationship with God, then your path, not the other way around, because God does not want you so focused on whether they are coming back that you stop becoming the person He called you to be. And this brings us to something many people overlook. Sometimes the reason God allows separation is not to destroy the connection. Sometimes it is to transform the people inside the connection. You may have needed healing. They may have needed maturity. You may have needed to learn boundaries. They may have needed to confront patterns they never wanted to face. You may have needed to stop settling. They may have needed to discover what they truly value. And while you were thinking the relationship was falling apart, God may have been exposing everything that would have eventually broken the relationship anyway. That is a different kind of restoration. It's not simply bringing two people back together. It's preparing two people to return differently. And I want you to listen carefully here, because this may be the part that explains why everything has felt so confusing. Before God restores a relationship, He may first remove the version of the relationship that could never survive. The old patterns, the insecurity, the avoidance, the fear, the pride, the emotional dependence, the need to control. Sometimes what you called separation was actually preparation, and maybe that is why the timing has felt so strange. Before we continue, let me share something important with those of you who have been wondering, how do I prepare myself while I'm waiting for God to bring the right person into my life? I created a 30-day prayer and preparation workbook to help you do exactly that. This isn't about sitting around wondering when your spouse will appear. It's about using this season to become spiritually, emotionally, and personally ready for the marriage you've been praying for. Each day includes scripture, prayer, reflection questions, and practical exercises to help you grow closer to Christ, strengthen your faith, develop godly character, and prepare your heart for a healthy, God-centered marriage. Because sometimes God is not asking you to wait for the promise, He is asking you to prepare for it. So instead of allowing this season to become frustrating, use it as a season of growth, healing, preparation, and deeper intimacy with God. The 30-day prayer and preparation workbook is available through the link in the description below. Now, come back to this, because there is something even more revealing about what God may be doing. When a person begins finding their way back, they often start remembering what they once ignored. They remember conversations. They remember the way you made them feel safe. They remember moments that seemed ordinary at the time but became meaningful after you were gone. Distance has a strange way of revealing value, and this is where you need discernment. Not every memory is a message from God. Not every dream is a confirmation. Not every coincidence means someone is returning. But when God is truly involved, there will eventually be fruit. There will be changed behavior. There will be responsibility. There will be honesty. There will be maturity. Jesus said in Matthew 7:6 that a tree is known by its fruit. So do not be moved only by words. Watch for fruit. Watch for consistency. Watch for humility. Watch for genuine change. Because if they are truly finding their way back, God will not require you to ignore the evidence. You will not have to force it. You will not have to manipulate it. You will not have to chase it. You will not have to become someone else to keep it. What God establishes does not need deception to survive. And perhaps that is the hidden confirmation you have been missing. Maybe the real sign is not that they are coming back. Maybe the real sign is that when they come back, they will not be the same person who left. That changes the entire meaning of restoration, because you are not waiting for a person to return. You are waiting to see what God has done in both hearts. So tonight, ask yourself honestly, if they came back tomorrow, would you recognize the difference? Would you know whether this was genuine restoration or simply loneliness reaching backwards? Would you be able to receive them without abandoning the healing God has already done in you? And would you trust God enough to let the relationship unfold at His pace instead of forcing it at yours? That is the deeper issue, because maybe God is behind their return, but before you see them walking back towards you, God may be preparing you to recognize what is coming. And in the next chapter, I want to show you the deeper signs that reveal when a return is actually being shaped by God rather than by emotion, nostalgia, or temporary loneliness. Because there is a difference. And once you understand that difference, you will stop interpreting every little movement as a confirmation. You will begin to recognize the evidence that actually matters. There is a difference between someone coming back because they are lonely and someone returning because God has changed something inside them. And that is why you want to slow down here, because the question was never simply, are they coming back? The deeper question is, what is God doing in the process of bringing them back? That is where discernment begins. When God is involved, restoration is not built on confusion. It is built on clarity. It is not built on manipulation. It is built on truth. It is not built on someone suddenly missing your presence for a few lonely nights. It is built on a genuine willingness to take responsibility, communicate honestly, and move differently. Proverbs 3:5-6 tells us to trust in the Lord with all our heart, not lean on our own understanding, and acknowledge Him in our ways. That means you don't have to figure everything out before God does. You don't have to decode every silence. You don't have to analyze every social media post. You don't have to search for hidden meanings in every coincidence. You can let God reveal what is real. And sometimes the first confirmation is not what happens around you, it's what happens inside you. Think about it. When you were deeply attached to the outcome, every little thing felt enormous. A missed call meant something. A dream felt like a message. A random memory felt like confirmation. One small interaction could change your entire mood. But then something begins to happen. You become calmer. You stop chasing signs. You stop trying to force communication. You stop needing constant reassurance. You begin praying differently. Instead of saying, "God, make this person come back," you start saying, "God,